Good morning, everyone.
Morning, everyone.
Hope you're doing well on this Monday morning.
Absolutely.
It is another day.
And another week for us to get busy and get things done.
Lots to do.
Let's handle our business this week. Let's be super productive this week. And let's make sure that our marriages are on track, starting at the top of this week.
Yes, so we want to hear from you wherever you're dialing in from. Just say hello. We're glad that you're joining us. We want to have a conversation this morning to really ask a question. We're not here necessarily to give instruction, but just to ask a question. And the question is, how healthy is your marriage? I think this is an important question we need to ask from time to time just to assess where we are. You know, one of the questions that we typically ask is, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate your marriage, right? If 1 was horrible and 10 was phenomenal, what score? You all right?
I had to kill a spider. Sorry. Taking care of my spouse, because I was thinking, if I don't kill that spider now, Hassan is going to get bit later. So I killed it now.
That's a sign of a healthy spouse.
See that?
Where they think about you, even in the midst of a live recording.
I'm a wife that'll kill a spider for you.
I appreciate that.
All right.
I appreciate that. That's love. That's real talk. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate your marriage? Where are you in your relationship? I think it's important to understand that, because whatever your number is, you want to know, well, what got us here? And what can we do if the number is not a 10? And I wouldn't expect it to be a 10 for most people. What do we need to do to make it a 10? And here's the reality. How you would rate your marriage may be completely different than how your spouse rates your marriage.
Yeah, that's true.
And this is why it's important to have a conversation, because if you would rate it, say, if I would rate it an 8, because I'm like, yeah, we're great, and then you rate it a 4, well, we have a problem.
Right. And then I might rate it a 10 in different areas, and you might rate it a 7 in different areas. Like, we just might have to come together and meet the minds on those areas that have low numbers, because I don't necessarily think that we should be saying we're a 10.
No, I don't.
That means that there's zero room for improvement. But I do think that, you know, if I'm an 8 on something and Hassani's a 6 on something, that's an area to work on to see, okay, am I delusional, or do we both need to work on something?
So if your numbers are close to one another, that's a good sign that both of you are having a similar experience and a shared perspective. But if you're on opposite ends of the spectrum, like if your numbers are, I would say, 3 or more numbers apart, that's worthy of a conversation.
Yes.
Ivy, good morning. Good to see you. Tanya, good morning. Calling from Atlanta. Love it.
Hey.
We love to see that. Donna, good morning from South Africa. Yes. Nigel from Louisiana. Good to see you, Nigel. Sonia, good to see you. Jules, love the name. That's right. Good morning from Japan. Good to see you. So listen, we have a number of questions that we want to ask you. Kathy from Virginia. Kiara, love it, love it, love it.
Hey, y'all.
We want to ask you a number of questions. Write these questions down. These are great questions to think about and to ponder. And let's have a conversation as we ask the questions. These are the 9 questions that you need to ask yourself and your spouse to determine how healthy your relationship is. Question number 1, how often do you and your spouse argue? That's an important question. Now, if it's an occasional disagreement, if it's an occasional struggle that you have, sometimes, you know, you could be heated about a particular topic and your voice is raised and you get out of control and you bring yourself back. But there's some couples who that's just a part of their makeup. That's how they communicate.
Yeah.
They're constantly bickering.
Yeah.
Constantly fussing and fighting. And it seems like there's always something that's causing this disconnect between the two of them. And it just fuels their relationship. They can't get beyond it. It's a struggle why they can't get beyond it. And all the communication books and all the communication videos that they watch, for some reason, it seems like when emotions get involved, they just throw all that out of the door and boom, they're off to the races.
And I think also then you just have folks, even if they're not hollering and screaming, because not every couple is a screaming couple. Like I've talked to so many people that say, we never argue. And I'm like, how do you never argue? Well, they look at arguing as hollering, screaming at the top of their lungs, but disagreeing.
Yes.
That is also a potential source of issues, because if you can't agree on anything, if you never meet on the minds of anything, and you're always on the opposite end of the pendulum, then now what do you do with that? And I think the question is, do you have the skills that are necessary for you to resolve those conflicts. It's one thing to get, like, we're not always going to agree. Arguing is like a whole other issue. Like if I'm hollering at you and screaming at you, I need to work on my communication styles. But disagreeing happens all the time. We're not always going to agree. So how do we resolve those issues determines how healthy your marriage is.
And that goes into the next question right there. And it says, how often do you and your spouse resolve fights? And I think what happens is a lot of couples have built up resentment, bitterness, unforgiveness because of unresolved issues. We fought about something 3 years ago, still haven't resolved it. Now we fought about something a year and a half ago, and that is compounded on top of what happened 2 years ago. And now we just we have this mountain that's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And the bigger the mountain gets, the more listen, the less that you believe that it's possible that you'll ever have anything healthy in your relationship.
True that.
And so this is why we do. This is why we use a powerful tool called the marriage negotiation worksheet with our clients, because it helps them to resolve issues.
Yeah. You know, regarding the battle between the sexes where we refuse to see eye to eye, that can be just something that you're doing, pitting yourself against your spouse. Because if the last time we got into an argument, I didn't feel heard, I felt like you shut me down, I felt like you didn't hear my point of view, now it's tit for tat. So now the next time we get into an argument, no matter how much sense it makes, no matter how much I agree with you for real, I'm going to be on the opposite side of it. And this happens all the time. Couples are always in so much competition about who's going to win this time that they're losing sight of the big picture, that we're supposed to be together. We're supposed to be not competing with each other, but we're supposed to be companions and working together to the same good. And all too often we're so bent out of shape because, listen, if I don't have your support, I'm not going to give you my support. We need to be coming together and working together to resolve these issues, because I don't want to carry problems and issues from last year into next year.
No, it goes back to what you said, agreement. And when you truly embrace the law of agreement, it will transform your marriage. Now, one thing about a law, you can't break a law. I hear people say, oh, he broke the law and that's why he's in jail. No. You can't break a law. A law existed before you were created. A law can't be changed, right? You can disobey a law. And if you disobey a law, the law will break you. If you disobey the law of agreement, the law will break your marriage, but you can't break a law. And so when you truly embrace the law of agreement, and the Bible spells it out very clearly, and in our book, The Audacity of Marriage, we actually, chapter 2 is how to resolve conflict in your marriage. And we talk about the power of agreement and give multiple examples of how that's done. And when you truly bring it into your relationship, because the whole idea of agreeing to disagree, that's played. That creates even more division over the course of time. So if you're not in a habit of agreeing, then you're setting yourself up for disaster.
Yes. Kiara says, I call the leapfrog when you keep jumping from issue to issue in arguments. Like, what are we originally arguing about?
Yes.
That is so frustrating.
Absolutely.
And that happens. I mean, we're all guilty of that. Like, what were we talking about? So you're so off track now. You're so angry and frustrated. You never got your point out. You never got your point heard, and you never resolved a darn thing. And you're both equally frustrated when you walked in.
Right.
So it's just,
and it becomes a tit for tat.
It does.
And so rather than listening to actually what your partner's saying, you're building up a defense, and you're preparing for, what your response is going to be, which sends the conversation in a completely different direction. And then after 2, 3, 4, 5 hours, you resolve nothing.
Right.
And that's why the tool that we use with couples keeps couples on track. It keeps couples focused, and it allows them to resolve one issue at a time.
Right.
Think about a pie. Can you eat a whole pie at a time or one slice at a time? It's one slice at a time. Likewise, that's how you should handle your particular issues.
Kathy says, that's me.
You're not alone, Kathy.
That's been all of us at some point. I know I've been guilty of pre-arguing, like, I'm going to say this, I'm going to say that, I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say that.
So listen, are you resolving conflict in your marriage? If you're not, it's a sign that you're unhealthy. Question number 3, I hope you're writing these down. Do you and your spouse share a lot of common interests and hobbies? This is important. We've heard all the time, couples who pray together stay together. But it is equally true that couples who play together stay together. So we're talking about coming together, engaging in activities that you both enjoy. Unfortunately, some of you are so far apart, so disconnected. You don't like the same things. You don't have the same activities. You don't have the same set of friends. You live in two completely different worlds within your own home. Like, yes, you're in physical proximity of one another, but you are miles apart, galaxies apart, because you don't take the time to come together. Yeah. So you need to think, what when we first got together, there was a reason why we came together. There was a reason why we fell in love. There was a reason why we said I do. What were the things that we enjoyed doing? What were the shared activities? What can we begin to go back to build some type of connection? And if not that, what can we explore in this new season? Because we change. You're not the same person you were. You don't like the same things you did. But you have to be intentional in spending quality time, because that's the glue, the invisible glue that binds the two of you together.
Absolutely.
Question number 4. Have you or your spouse ever cheated? Now, that's a sign of an unhealthy relationship. So when cheating occurs, it's an indication that something unhealthy is going on inside the relationship. Something unhealthy is going on inside of the person, or a combination of the two. There's always a reason for infidelity. So when people say, "Oh, it meant nothing. It just happened. Like, I slipped on a banana peel and wound up in someone's bed." That does not happen.
Never.
It was a mistake. No. 1 + 1 = 3 is a mistake, right? And then you quickly course correct. But when there's an affair, trust and believe, there are lots of thoughts, lots of micro decisions that are being made, justifications, rationalizations, all type of things that bring you to that place.
Yeah, I almost wish that this was the last one, because a lot of times it's the result of lacking in all these other areas, right? You're spending your time, like we just were talking about with the last one, you're spending your time with everyone and everything else. You're disconnected. You have your life, they have their life. There's no oneness. And when there's no oneness, because we're human nature, our human nature is to connect with people. So if you don't have any oneness with the person that's under your roof and you're connecting with everyone else, it is human nature to start developing connection, to start to share more intimate things, to get past all the basic communication into intimate details. Now you making up stuff or sharing things about your spouse and all of that. So these things being in place, and we haven't even gotten through the whole list, actually represent a barrier that can protect a average and healthy marriage from cheating, right? Absolutely. Because there are other components that bring about cheating that have everything to do with the cheater and what's going on with them and what they never resolved. But when you have a lot of this stuff in place, now you've got the boundaries in place to keep cheating from creeping in to in any other case, healthy marriage.
Absolutely. The next question, I hope this is helping you guys. Oh, we actually have a comment. Can you read that? Because I don't have my glasses.
Chris says, yes, me and my wife of 17 years went to a gun range together for the first time, and it was amazing. Now she wants me to buy her a gun. I love it.
I love it. We keep talking
about going to the gun range. I don't know what the holdup is. But
you were the holdup.
I'm not the holdup.
You're scary. You scary Poppins.
I promise y'all, I am not the holdup. But we got to make that happen.
We absolutely have to make that happen. Another comment. Work spouse, a shoulder to cry on at work, at lunch, a lunch buddy. Steer clear. You
Thank you, Sifiso. I love that you said that. Steer clear reminds me of the Bible where David was told to run.
That's right.
Run for your life.
That's right.
Because it is a trap door. And once you go in there and get behind that door, it locks you in. Because it seems innocent and it's never innocent. The enemy doesn't have innocent plans for you when it comes to that.
Isn't that crazy? Just the idea of that, of calling somebody somebody that you commune with, someone that you
the work wife or the work husband.
That's insane. And so once again,
don't do it.
If you have a work wife or husband, it's an indication that you're spending long amounts of time and hours together, and you can't help but to form these relationships. We talk about how the average US and UK couple engages in 4 minutes of conversation a day, yet you're on your job for 8 to 10 to 12 hours, not only talking, right, but you're doing projects together. You're winning together. You're struggling through particular things together. That forms a union, that forms team, that forms companionship,
Yeah.
that forms some type of allegiance that you have for that person,
Yeah.
and that forms emotions.
Yolanda says, yes, I loved it. Thanks, baby. Talking to Chris. They are the ones that went to the gun range.
Love it.
Sonia says, I totally agree. It's harder to have more connecting conversations when you've been married a long time, but you must focus on it. If you don't make it a priority, it will never happen.
There it is. That's
Yes,
absolutely true.
yes,
That's absolutely
so true.
And so that takes us into the next question. How often do you and your spouse spend quality time together? How often?
You know what I wanted to say, because this is a perfect lead way into or after what Sonia said. It is hard to have more meaningful connecting conversations with your spouse when you've been married such a long time, because you've talked about everything, right? You really have tapped out that rock and you need to fill it back up. And I think that's what makes the big difference, that if I am no longer discovering you, if I'm no longer creating room for you to actually expand, because we shouldn't be the same person we were 10 years ago. If we're the same person we were 10 years ago, then there ain't going to be nothing new to talk about. But if we're still growing and if we're still learning, we should be changing and have something new. We should be like refreshing this well and be able to spring new water, fresh water into our relationship. So I think that that's a big thing that couples need to be aware of, is that we need to be renewing our hearts and our minds so that we become new and we can share that newness with our spouse.
That's right.
Now jump into the question.
How often do you and your spouse spend quality time together?
Boom.
So in the book of The Audacity of Marriage, if you don't have it, go to Amazon.com right now and get it. The Audacity of Marriage, 10 Principles for Lifelong Partnership. There's a chapter we have, how to have a time-rich marriage. Once again, 95% of the couples who come to us for counseling or a part of any of our programs, they come because of infidelity. They're on the verge of divorce, major conflict. But when you really begin to peel back the layers, you will realize that there is a severe lack of time that they're spending with one another, which has caused the drift, the emotional disconnect, which allows other people, other things, other activities to get in the way. And while at one time you had a heart for your partner, now you have a heart for other things, which causes the breakdown. And so you have to be intentional of spending time together. Now, listen, you have to work an 8-10 hour shift. Maybe you have a business and there's no set schedule. You're working from sun up to sundown, from can't see in the morning to can't see at night. You have children, so they require time. Of course, you got to spend time with the kids. Many of you are so involved in ministry or extracurricular activities or so many other things. And what happens is your marriage becomes the lowest thing on your list of priorities, and you give each other the leftovers. Well, if I'm exhausted and I'm tired, one of the challenges, admittedly, working so hard, by the time we got together, there I am dozing, I'm falling asleep. We're watching a movie, I'm falling asleep. We're trying to have a conversation.
The truth shall set you free.
We could be having a conversation. She's dozing. It happens. It happens. It happens. It happens.
Anywho,
it happens.
But we work on our weaknesses. That's the difference, because I'm gonna tell you right now, we do work long hours and we are tired. So there is, some sense of, we have an understanding about that, but none of that matters when it comes to keeping the cup full, right? We all have reasons, and valid reasons, why we can't show up for our spouse today or this week, right? Maybe later. But at the end of the day, the more you do that and you don't prioritize your spouse, the more you put them on the back burner and delay, but you got all kinds of energy to do everything else for everybody else, the cup runs dry for your spouse. And that's what you don't want. When your spouse's cup starts to run dry, you're in the danger zone. And actually, you're putting them in the danger zone, because you're supposed to be covering them, and the enemy is watching, and the enemy knows what you need, and the enemy knows what you're lacking. And here he come with an opportunity. So it is your responsibility to keep your spouse's cup full. And if you don't know how to do that, then that's when you need to get busy trying to figure that out.
And guess how you figure that out? It's really simple. Danielle, how can I fill your cup?
Right now?
Right now.
You can go get me some coffee.
See that? See how simple that was? We go to every other source but the person that we're living with. One of the principles we teach at Couples Academy is this: you need to become a student of your spouse. Get your PhD in your partner. The more you know about your partner, the more effective you'll be in your relationship. So yes, you should read books. Yes, you should tune into us every single morning. Yes, you should come to us for like counseling and programs and things of that nature. But ask the person that you're with, how can I love you? How can I fill up your cup? What do I need to do?
And sometimes you don't even need to ask. Like, honestly, like we know our spouses well enough. You know, sometimes if I'm walking by and I see Hassan looking like this, he leaning, I'm like, oh, he needs some juice. Let me go get him some coffee right now. I mean, you'll be surprised how many people just will never think to do something for their spouse. Like, that's on them. They need some coffee. They know what to do. You see? So like that's the stuff that you need to do.
That's a good point. Pay attention to, like, zone in, focus on your spouse, observe. Like, if you grab a little book, a notebook, and just start writing things down. Okay, she's tired. Okay, she gets tired around 12 o'clock. She needs a pep. Okay, she's overwhelmed. She needs a nap. Like, when I began to really start paying attention, I started to see certain patterns. Now I don't need to ask the question. I can anticipate the need. Doesn't that make sense? And if we learn to do that, it would change the game in our marriages.
Yes.
Lots of questions coming in. All right. How, as a girlfriend, can I trust my man being friends with his ex-girlfriend on Facebook who blocked me? Am I being insecure? Yes, you're being insecure. You are not secure in your relationship because of what this dude is doing.
Exactly.
It's 1000% inappropriate. Listen, unless they share children together, there's no need for them to be friends at all.
Exactly.
That's a relationship that needs to come to an end.
I hate when people try to call you insecure and you're the reason for my insecurity.
You're creating it.
Like, yes, I'm insecure. Like, they make insecure a curse word. Like, there's something I did wrong. Like, you have destroyed my barriers of security by your actions. Of course, I'm insecure. So, and there's only one way that's going to change. I leave the insecure situation, or you make me feel secure by closing off all these other extracurricular activities that you're participating in.
Absolutely. And he will only do what you allow him to do. So shut it down. Listen, people learn by your reaction. If you're accommodating and, okay, babe, but why? And, can we work it out? Now he realizes she ain't going nowhere. I got power. But if you shut that down and let him know that there's no way in the world. If you want her, go. If you want me, then you can't have her if you're with me. So you need to disconnect from her. You need to unfriend her. You need to block her. That relationship is over. Say your goodbyes. Finito, it's over. But if you want this, then we're going to have to establish some rules of engagement that work for this relationship. Period, point blank. You have to be uncompromising with things like this, because this is how cheating and infidelity and inappropriate relationships happen, because we're so liberal in all of these opposite sex friends. Well, we dated back in the day and we're still friends, and I don't see anything wrong with still being friends with people I was with. Okay. Your marriage may find something wrong with it, though you don't. And so here's the principle. If it works for you and doesn't work for him, it doesn't work for your relationship. If it works for him and doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for your relationship. Does that make sense? So if we're about being in this relationship, we need rules of engagement that work. All right, let's go to the next one. Me and my wife try to do something together 3 weekends out of the month, not including watching movies together and taking little rides together. It really makes a big difference in your marriage. Yes. Christopher, you are absolutely right. It's the pattern of consistency that gets it going. All right, Tanya says, Hey, Tanya, time is the most valuable commodity. Once it passes, you can't get the time back. I try to explain that to my husband on a daily basis. That's very true.
So true.
I think we all need, there's a lot of comments coming in. Let's go to the next one. They broke up 7 years ago, but still stayed in touch, but he never cut her off. He wants to tell her after we got into the relationship that we were dating, but didn't even make it clear. Listen, Kayla, reach out to us. You see that number at the bottom, 678-200-8996. Text it, set up a free discovery call so that we can talk to you about that situation.
Hey,
Stacy, planning time together is a game changer. Schedule it. I remember we were talking, she has, I'm so happy for Stacy. They have a great relationship. And we talked about the power of a calendar and color coding things that they do within the context of their calendar to create space and opportunity. And once they did that, it shifted things in their marriage. So we're so glad that things
Hey,
are working for you.
Susie.
She says, preach, Danielle. Yes, she does preach.
Preaching.
You better preach. You said something, obviously.
Preaching. I don't even know what I said. That must have been the
I
spirit.
guess I'm not saying nothing.
Preach.
I'm not saying nothing up here. I was thinking the same thing, preach.
Preach, Hassani.
Yes, Jesus, a PhD in your spouse. That's absolutely right. Listen, if you can go to school and get a degree and become an expert on particular things, why not become an expert on your spouse? It just makes sense.
Yes, Lord.
Good to see you guys in the morning. Good to see you too. Good morning. Yes, yes, yes. So here we go. Facts. Let's go to the next one. Okay. Have you ever thought about leaving your spouse? Wow. I can't say that we've never been there, because there was a time in our marriage that we were not healthy.
Yeah.
We were on the verge of divorce. There were thoughts of this.
Right.
And so I think that there are times and seasons in a marriage where you hit a brick wall and those thoughts do come to your mind. And if you do, it's a major sign that something is not going well in your relationship.
I have to admit, there were times when I was driven by my imagination, because that's all I had for escape, right? So, when we were struggling and disconnected, my imagination was my escape. So I would think about what it would be like if I was by myself. I knew what my house looked like. I knew what my furniture looked like. My life was just so much better in the imagination. But what that did was it demotivated me towards doing anything to work towards our marriage. So I was so disconnected by the time Hassani came around and wanted to work on our marriage. I was nowhere to be found because I had moved into my imagination. So we got to really be careful about that.
We were talking about this in the 3-day Audacity of Marriage home edition, how your spouse's biggest competition is your memory and your imagination. When you start reflecting on what things were like or who you were with, or you begin to start thinking about what life would be like, and you have this image in your mind of a lifestyle you would live or a person you would be with, that's the biggest competition. And that is a sign of a boat, a ship that exists in your life that needs to be burned. If you don't understand what we're talking about, that was a part of our experience that we had on day one, burning your boats and burning your ships, meaning getting rid of every alternative plan.
On day one of the Audacity of Marriage.
It was powerful. It was powerful.
Don't miss the next one we
do. You don't. So at the end of the day, if you're thinking those thoughts, it's worthy of a conversation. And listen, just dial in, set up a discovery call. We're here to help navigate you through these particular issues. My fiance and I have date nights every 2 weeks. We do sports and board games during the day. We dedicate a full day just for us. I think that's amazing. Don't stop doing that once you get married. The lockdown has created a fallacy that we're always together anyway. We may be in the same house all day, but still may be miles apart emotionally.
Fiso drops
you are dropping
mic.
bombs. That's, oh my God.
So true. How many people do you know that are complete strangers under their roof? And this has made it 10 times worse because at least I could get in the car every morning and drive away from you. Now that is over. People are at home. They're quarantined. Everybody's working together, but they're on opposite sides of the house because they still haven't learned how to deal with one another.
Absolutely. And so as we're because we received so many calls for people once the coronavirus hit and the pandemic hit, people were calling and we're working on helping people with their relationships and they're starting to feel really good. But their major concern is, well, when we have to go back to work, like I'm secure and I can trust as long as I can see my partner, as long as I know what they are or are not doing. But once they go back to work, now it's starting to get a little bit uncomfortable. So it's true. Quarantining can give you a false sense of security.
Yeah.
That's why you have to make sure that you create the right foundation so that whether you're in the home or not, there's a level of trust and transparency that exists. So that's a really great point.
Yes.
My imagination is the worst part of the pain. I let my mind go and it's awful.
Yeah,
Claire, it's so true. We talk about this all the time. That your imagination, we talk about this in one of our chapters, How to Heal a Hurting Marriage. And it talks about how you're, in essence, revisiting that painful moment again and again and again and again and again. And it may be your spouse who's no longer hurting you, but you're hurting yourself because of where you allow your mind and your emotions and your thoughts and your imagination to go. And so overcoming your emotional triggers and learning how to control your thoughts are so critically important.
Oh my God. It will overtake you with actual physical feelings and emotions. It is terrible when you allow yourself to go places like where you might have felt that you did something wrong or you failed. That's a terrible place. Or when somebody has hurt you, allowing your imagination to create and fill in the blanks of the story that you don't really have all the answers to. So you just go ahead and create it and make it 10 times worse than it was. So there is two sides of it. There's the escaping in your imagination, and then there's like moving into torment in your own imagination, where you're just, it's almost like you're assaulting yourself every time you go there. And you do have the ability, it's biblical, that you can actually cast it down. And I know that's a scripture, right? Cast down every imagination that rises itself up against the name of God. Okay, what does casting it down mean? It means turning it off. It means turning the page. It means think of something else. It means literally find the word. It could be nope. I was talking to somebody the other day that they were going into a very uncomfortable situation and they knew that they might be triggered, but trigger starts with thoughts, right? So she said every time a thought would come, she would say out loud, nope. And it was an interruption in the mind. And that's really what it means. If you're casting it down, you're just interrupting the thought with some other thought. Turn the page and move right away. And you'll get used to doing that. And it'll become a knee-jerk reaction. And I know this to be true because I had to learn to do that.
Wow. So true. Help us, Lord. I tell you, that's right. Wow. I love it. This is so true and deep. I agree. I've thought about it many of times. I think he's talking about leaving. That was a result of not putting the past on Front Street and being 100% honest. When you mature in your relationship, what you talk about actually helps the marriage to grow, and you become closer. The power of authentic relationships.
Yes, sir.
Christopher, you better preach it.
Yes, sir.
That's absolutely true and absolutely right. These are awesome comments. Let's go to the next one. The next question is, how often do you and your spouse engage in intimate activity? I think that's important. Now, usually when people hear intimacy, they think sex, and that's very, very important in a marriage. It's the one thing that binds the two of you together and separates you from every other relationship on the planet Earth.
Yes.
So sexual intimacy is critically important. But when we're talking about intimacy, there's other components. We're talking about intellectual intimacy, having open and honest, intimate conversation. We're talking about emotional intimacy, learning how to share your heart and not just having surface cliche conversations. And having spiritual intimacy. We've been tapping into that recently a whole lot, just really unpacking the word and looking at it through new lenses and with a new understanding. Every time you read something, you should get something different out of it. You should have aha moments and revelation, and coming together and being able to share in those particular ways is important. So spiritual intimacy, intellectual intimacy, emotional intimacy, and of course, coming together sexually. It protects your marriage.
Yes,
it protects it. So make sure you do it. If you haven't done it in the last day or so, do it tonight. What I say? I didn't say nothing.
Y'all saw that lean in, right? If you haven't done it today, you sound like a darn commercial. Do it tonight. Anyway.
Let's go on. All right. After infidelity, I had to start meditating to begin controlling my mind to stop creating negative thoughts. That's so true. So true.
Yes,
this
ma'am.
mind is the greatest sexual organ that you have, and you need to learn how to control it in a powerful way.
Yeah.
Amen. If you do not cast it down, it will continue to torment you. I call it changing the channel.
Changing the channel.
Because your mind,
yes.
Your mind is like a transistor radio that tunes into certain frequencies. And when you shift your mind, you tune into a frequency that helps you heal, as opposed to a frequency that creates more harm, more hurt, and one thing that hinders you.
Yeah, this is why I talk about healing as a choice all the time, because and this does not take anything away from real triggers that come upon you when you least expect it, but you still have to understand that there's no one else that's going to take control of you and your body. You have got to take authority over your body and not say, well, I was triggered, and give yourself over to these emotions and things that take over us. We have to grow and develop past it. So I love what you're saying about, taking control and turning the channel. I love that, because literally that's what it takes for you to begin to turn off those emotions, turn off those signals, and start to think a different way.
I don't like certain channels. I
don't like certain channels.
There it is. You just turn the channel.
When I see it, I'm like, if certain stuff comes, I put on a movie the other day and I was like, where's this going? Nope. And I turned it off. See the word nope.
Very true. Yes, when you turn the page, you put all the past behind you and removing all the barriers. Very
Yeah.
true. Hello, finally caught up, guys, online. Embrace Marriage Ministries. We don't know who
Hi.
you are, but we're
We would
glad to
love to
know you. We
connect.
would love to connect
Please
with you. Reach
inbox
out.
us.
All right, let's go to the next one. The next question to determine whether you have a healthy or unhealthy marriage is, do you have financial trouble? This is so critically important. Well, how does financial trouble speak to the health or unhealth of your marriage? Well, we realize that a lot of couples really struggle. We talk about the top 3 things that really impact the marriage the most: sex, communication, and money. So many couples are so at odds about what to do with the money. Either we don't have enough money, either I'm making money, where's your money? Either this is my money, that's your money. Prioritizing and valuing what we do with the money, where it should go. We have debt over here, but I want to buy this thing over here, but I want to invest over here. And listen, I want to hold on because I'm not sure what's going on in this pandemic over here. And so if you two are not on one accord, one of the areas where it really shows up is in the area of your finances.
Straight up. I remember the brokest of brokest days.
And we were broke.
Brokety broke.
We were broke. We couldn't even afford the K and the E.
We could not afford we couldn't afford the E, the silent E. We couldn't afford it. But I remember that we were still on one accord, and we made something that we like to call the peanut butter and jelly pact. And that was that, listen, we got a mission and we have a calling on our lives, and we know this to be true, and that we are willing to eat, if we got to eat peanut butter and jelly sandwiches on our way to whatever God has called us to do, we are willing to do that. See the oneness there?
Yeah.
That oneness and that agreement was everything. So even when you are in financial trouble, so people think, well, I'm having problems because he ain't got no money or she ain't got no money. It's because you haven't come together in any kind of agreement. You don't have oneness, because if you had oneness, there's no obstacle you couldn't overcome together.
There it is.
It's the oneness. But finances is a big issue for people because they haven't understood that simple concept.
And it seems like a mountain. Like when you are in debt, there's nothing good about that. It doesn't feel good.
No.
And it really impacts.
But it's even worse when you're doing it alone.
Oh, without a doubt.
In your marriage.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why it's so important to go back into the power of agreement, because finances, once you are on one accord, you bust through goals so fast. Like the fact that, and there's nothing wrong with having multiple accounts, but if you have your money and I have my money, then we as a couple will never be able to accomplish goals together. And we've been able to do more together than we've been able to do apart. So get your finances in order, folks.
Let's read some of these comments.
I love listening to you all because I'm single and I'm learning a lot. Well, get it. Tree of Life Fitness.
Glad.
Danielle, you are right. It's a choice. We're taught holding on to those things make us stronger, but that is not true. Letting it go makes you stronger.
Yes, it does.
Very, very true.
It does.
One thing that you have to do as well is to let your spouse know when you communicate that it's, if that's not what it is, that it's not what it is. Meaning, if they're overthinking, let them know without arguing. Sometimes we overthink.
True
We too.
that.
Some people have a tendency of overthinking. Christopher, wow, you're on a roll. You're on fire today.
Yes,
you
sir.
are.
Yes, sir.
Amen. All right. In order to hold on, you must let go. You can't hold on to your future if you don't let go of your past.
Truth.
That is a powerful, powerful point.
Yes, Yolanda.
Those are opposing opposites. Letting go, holding on. You have to do both, but it depends upon what you're holding on to and what you're letting go of. Yes, Ken says truth. All right. We got 2 more, guys. 2 more. The next question. How often do you and your spouse communicate in a loving and positive manner? Some people can't even form their lips to say thank you. Some people can't form their lips to acknowledge something powerful and positive about their partner.
Pure facts.
I hear this all the time. Like, you never even compliment me.
Yes.
You know you're beautiful. You know you're pretty. You know you're beautiful. Why do I have to tell you? Like, why do I need to tell you? I don't need to do that. That's not my responsibility. You know it. Like, that's insane.
It is insane.
It is insane. So you're thinking it and feeling it under your breath, but you can't form your lips to say it. So it's easier for you to act up. It's easier for you to turn off. It's easier for you to speak out, to yell, to scream, to fuss, to fight than it is to have a soft, genuine word of expression to let your partner know how much you love him and care. That's an indication that you're not healthy. That's
a serious indication. And you are feeding and fueling the problem, because when your spouse walks out the door, everybody else has no problem complimenting them and filling their cup with every bit of confidence that they need. You should be their first confidence. You should be the one to tell them how good they smell before they walk out the door. You should be the one to straighten the tie and let them know how good they look. It shouldn't come from nobody else first. It should come from you. But you're right. So many people, they don't even have it in them to compliment. And I think that goes back to the competition thing. Like you're in such competition, you can't even form your mouth to let them know that they're good at something or look good or smell good. Because the moment you do it, you think you're fueling whatever they got going on.
And the reality is, some of you hear it all the time. The moment you walk
Toxic
out your door,
101, sorry.
You walk out your door, you're getting compliments, you're told how great you are. All this has happened. Toxic 101, that's true. But it means nothing if you don't hear from your spouse.
It's so true.
When we were leading our church, and every single time I would preach and come down, the first person I was looking at was Danielle. So what you think? Give me your feedback. Because what she said meant more to me than what the entire congregation said. Of course, you care what people think, but she's my spouse. I want to hear from her.
Truly.
So whatever it was. And so getting that type of affirmation from your partner is so critically important.
Let's go to the top here. Did we read this, Yolanda?
I'm going through my social media today, clicking unfriend on all my exes.
Go ahead, girl.
It is an offense to my spouse. What offends him offends me, and vice versa. Boom. Transformation.
And I love it
moment.
when people learn and then take action.
And they just do it.
Just take action.
All right. Super expressive to anything negative, but quiet as a lamb for anything positive. You better believe
hot mess happens all the time.
You guys are the
Purse.
marriage saviors from God. Keep up the good work. You give such good advice. Thank you, Piers. We appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you, Lord.
All right. What if you feel stuck in the events that have happened? You want to move forward, but you're struggling. You don't want to say you've forgiven when you're still upset and in your pain. How can you move on? Really simple. And I don't mean to keep plugging this, but this is what we're here to do. We can give you all of these Facebook Lives every single morning. You can read free blogs and posts, but you really need help. I would highly recommend call in, get a discovery call. Let's figure out how we can work together to get you through. We work with couples. We work with individuals who are trapped in the pit of their pain. You don't need to spend the rest of your life in torment. So reach out to us.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tiana?
Some need those words of affirmation. This may be their love language.
Absolute.
You better believe it.
Oh, it's exactly what the case is. And it exasperates the issue because they can't get that need met. So what they do is they go out and they get it met elsewhere.
That's right.
There's the Pandora's box wide open.
It's me too. It's all of us, Kathy. And that's why we're here. Yeah. Last question. How to determine if you are in a healthy or unhealthy relationship? How open are you and your spouse with one another? Think about this. A lot of us are closed. A lot of us build walls.
Yeah.
And what we're doing is we're erecting windows, allowing us to look outside and others to look in. What we need to do is build a wall around us as a hedge of protection, tear down the wall between us, and erect a window, allowing us to look into each other's lives. Yep. You have to be open with your spouse. When you're closed, when you have a secret life, when you've compartmentalized every other aspect of your life from your partner, it creates an automatic division and separation. And now you become like two entities operating in a household, doing random things, but there's no togetherness. There's no oneness. The Bible says a man shall leave his father and mother, cleave unto his wife, and the two shall become one. You can't be one if you are not open to one another. Mm-hmm. These are the things that we must be mindful of.
Yeah, and I hear the Lord saying, well, I'm open. Or I hear somebody saying, I'm open, but they're not. And so this is when you need to get yourself in the hands of somebody that can lead you and guide you with certain tools and techniques to cause that person to open up so that you can have the open relationship that you want. It doesn't work if it's one-sided. If one person is doing all the pouring and all the opening and all the gift giving and all the complimenting and all the everything to try to make this relationship work, eventually they're going to run out of gas.
Yeah.
So we need two partners that are willing to work these things through. So don't neglect the opportunity to call and get a 15-minute session for free so that we can help you, at least give you some tips that you could take today and run with the rest of the week, hopefully. And if you need more help, then we're here for that as well.
Guys, do your teeth hurt? Do you have a toothache right now? If so, I would encourage you to go to a dentist. Do you have a back pain? Is your side hurting you right now? That annoying pain that just won't go away? I encourage you to go to your doctor.
Right on.
Well, if you're experiencing any type of pain heart pain in your marriage,
Right
a
on.
strain in your relationship,
Right.
I encourage you to get some help. Couples
That's
Academy.
It's that simple,
It's
right?
just that simple.
Yeah.
If you feel a pain, listen, if you're driving in your car and you look on your dashboard and you have that light that pops up, you could say, oh, it's okay. I'll go a couple more miles, a couple more days, a couple more months. What happens is whatever that issue was, now it's compounded and it gets worse because you waited too long. And now what could have taken $20 to fix something, now you're spending thousands because you realize you got to replace an entire engine because you waited too long. The body communicates, your relationship communicates. So what is it saying? Are you paying attention? And if there are hurts and pains that exist, get the help you need. Call Couples Academy, go on our website, set up a free discovery call. Let's figure out how we can help you. Guys, we've gone long today. Forgive us.
We did. How'd that happen?
We got work to do. So we hope that this was helpful for
man.
you. If you got something out of this, we want you to share. We haven't been saying this. Share this to your page. There's so many people in your community that need to know this. And if you can help them, if you can be a beacon of light to them by just sharing this video, you've done a great job. We love you guys. We'll see you on tomorrow.